welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into what is literally the greatest heist in modern history. And no, we're not talking about a bank robbery or some elaborate jewel heist. This one is happening right now, in your pocket, on your desk, or maybe even in the browser tab right next to this one. Digital platforms are orchestrating a massive cognitive heist, and they are systematically stealing our absolutely most valuable resource, our focus. Let's be totally real for a second. How many times have you checked your phone since this explainer started? Was it just a few seconds ago? Hey, don't worry, we've all been there, and I am definitely not judging you. It feels like an unconscious habit, right? But the secret is, that habit isn't an accident at all. It's actually driven by incredibly sophisticated design aimed at keeping you constantly hooked. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to cover the new attention economy, look at exactly what distraction does to your brain, measure the true cost of all this, explore the power of deep work, and finally check out the global rules and laws pushing back. Section 1. The new attention economy, and the shift from information scarcity to cognitive scarcity. You see, for almost all of human history, information was incredibly scarce, which made it highly valuable. But we've crossed a really critical inflection point. Today, we exist in the state of absolute hyper-abundance of information, which makes human attention the scarce resource. Your attention is literally being mined. We're dealing with a completely new economic system here. The attention economy is a setup where digital platforms generate value not by producing traditional physical goods, but by organizing, capturing, and monetizing your focus as a tradable currency. Economist Herbert Simon actually hit the nail on the head way back in 1971 when he said that a wealth of information necessarily creates a poverty of attention. Basically, your gaze is the product being sold. To really understand why this is happening, you just have to look at the business model. Charlie Munger famously said, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome." The Center for Humane Technology uses this exact quote to highlight a pretty harsh reality. Tech platforms are financially incentivized to maximize our time on screen. And they pull this off by using variable reward schedules, which, crazy enough, is the exact same psychological mechanism used in casino slot machines. Section 2, your brain on distraction, and how algorithms essentially hack our neuroscience. So what is this actually doing to us physically? Well, if you're struggling to focus, I really want to validate that for you right now. It's not entirely your fault. This is a biological bypass that's been engineered into the systems we use every single day. Think of it like an internal battle happening inside your head. On one side, you have your executive control, governed by the prefrontal cortex. This is the area handling your planning, prioritization, and sustained deep concentration. But competing against that is your primitive stimulus response, the amygdala. Technology is designed to constantly ping this alarm center. It effectively forces us out of thoughtful executive control and dumps us right into an exhausted reactive survival mode, where literally every notification feels like a mini emergency. And think about this massive 40% increase in cognitive load. When we try to multitask, which, by the way, research confirms humans can't actually do, we're really just rapidly task switching. Our cognitive load shoots up by up to 40%. This completely drains our working memory, makes us way more prone to mistakes, and leads to profound mental fatigue. Tech companies actually use a very specific playbook to engineer this attention grab at a brute force industrial scale. First, in the capture phase, they use variable rewards to trigger a dopamine-driven craving for novelty. Then, retention kicks in with features like the infinite scroll. This completely bypasses your executive decision-making, so you don't even realize you're still swiping. Finally, reinforcement hits you with likes and notifications to ensure intermittent reinforcement, basically guaranteeing you'll come back for more. Section 3, the true cost of distraction, looking at the macroeconomic and social externalities. We've talked about the microbiology, but what happens when an entire society loses its ability to focus? We've really got to zoom out to the macro stakes here because the costs of this cognitive heist are absolutely staggering. Let's break down the financial drain. The French Treasury actually modeled the impact of digital distraction on their national economy. Personal browsing at work alone costs France about 10 billion euros annually. This is due to things called resumption errors and micro inefficiencies every time someone switches tabs. And if you project those losses out to 2060, they're looking at a massive 2.9% drop in GDP as the cognitive capital of the workforce steadily degrades. And the social cost, it's just as wild. I mean, Oxford's 2024 word of the year was literally brain rot. It describes the real deterioration of our mental state from over-consuming, unchallenging online content. This is a massive concern for Generation Alpha, whose cognitive development is being impeded right out of the gate. We are tragically losing the concept of boredom, that essential silence from stimuli that historically has been totally required for the brain to connect ideas and actually engage in creative problem solving. Section 4. The power of deep work. Taking back our cognitive agency. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, I promise. Let's move to the solve phase. How on earth do we take back our cognitive agency? I am super excited to introduce you to the ultimate defense strategy for reclaiming focus, a powerful concept known as deep work. Deep work is all about professional activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration. And there are quite a few actionable models you can try. The monastic approach is intense, eliminating all shallow obligations entirely. If that's a bit much, the bimodal model splits your time between deep isolation and shallow work. Rhythmic builds a daily habit, like setting aside 90 focus minutes every single morning. Journalistic requires some training to instantly switch into deep work whenever you have a spare moment. Oh, and my personal favorite is body doubling, where the presence of another person provides that much-needed external executive functioning and social accountability. Now, what's really interesting about this is how organizations can structurally protect this bandwidth too. Implementing a corporate policy of just 2 no-meeting days skyrockets productivity by 71% while simultaneously slashing stress by a third. Hitting 3 no-meeting days drops stress by a staggering 57%. Back-to-back calls create serious neurological fatigue, so these policies finally give the brain a much-needed reset. Alongside corporate policies, we as individuals need to cognitively offload and set really intentional boundaries. You can do this by writing up a tech vision statement. Step 1. Explicitly define what technology absolutely must do for you, like supporting your learning or career. Step 2. Define the specific digital traps you want to guard against, like late-night doom scrolling. And Step 3. Establish clear physical boundaries. For example, making your bedroom a completely tech-free zone does wonders to protect both your sleep and your mental bandwidth. Section 5. The pushback, rules and laws. Legislating attention sovereignty. Finally, let's zoom back out to the ultimate macro solution. Global governments are no longer just sitting on the sidelines watching this happen. They're increasingly stepping in to regulate the attention economy and legislate what we call attention sovereignty. It's incredible to watch this right-to-disconnect movement sweep across the globe. France pioneered this stuff back in 2017. By 2022, countries like Belgium and Colombia had enacted their own protections. In August 2024, Australia's law took effect for large businesses, and they're expanding it to small businesses in 2025. Now the EU is even proposing a Digital Fairness Act. This growing trend in labor law is establishing a really vital neutral legal precedent. Human attention is simply not the 24/7 property of an employer. The Australian model is honestly fascinating. It doesn't outright ban after-hours contact. Instead, it flips the dynamic and empowers the employee to reasonably refuse contact based on contextual factors. They look at the reason and urgency for the call, the disruption it causes, whether the person is actually getting paid to be on call, their specific level of responsibility, and personal circumstances like family care duties. It's incredibly pragmatic. So the crucial point here is that while we're fighting so hard to reclaim our focus, new technologies are constantly adding fresh layers of complexity. Take generative AI. It promises massive efficiency, sure, but a 2025 survey out of Japan highlights this major paradox. 92% of users do not fully trust AI responses and feel they have to manually verify them. So verifying those probabilistic AI outputs actually introduces a massive new cognitive load. In a way, we're just trading one distraction for a completely new type of mental fatigue. Which brings us to our final, somewhat provocative thought to leave you with. In an economy explicitly built on distraction, will you protect your most valuable asset? Your focus, your cognitive bandwidth is quite literally the foundation of your consciousness. True success today absolutely demands the courage to prioritize deep focus over passive scrolling. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Start setting those boundaries, protect your mind, and I'll see you next time.